What's going on, guys? Jeff here, back again with another video, and today we have to talk about the government shutdown in the United States. So today it is officially the 35th day of the government shutdown, which means that we are tied for the longest government shutdown ever, which is crazy, right? Because if there is no deal that's being struck today, we are effectively in the longest government shutdown ever. But let's be for real. Currently, there is no deals that is on the table. The House is having a 45 days recess so far, and I don't think Senate is going to be coming in anytime soon. So, I have been watching a lot of content online, be it on Instagram or on TikTok. A lot of people having their own opinion on this, right? A lot of people are thinking that this is a Republican-only shutdown or a Democrats-only shutdown. So do watch on if you want to have a different perspective from me. I cannot tell you that I'm going to be completely unbiased, but I'm going to give you some perspective from my end. Okay, so if you think that this is just because the Republican hold all three branches of the government, being the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they are invulnerable, well, you are beyond wrong. Because in order for them to prevent a government from being a tyrant government, this has been going on for the longest time, right? Where they wanted to ensure that just by you being in control of all three branches of the government, you can now just decimate every single decision and have everything being decided by you. They had this thing called the filibuster rule. They will require 60 votes for them to actually allow for anything to continue. So at the moment right now, the Republican only holds 53 votes. So they are lacking of 7 votes, which the 7 of them are most likely going to be from the Democrat side. Now, the problem is because of this whole 60 votes for the filibuster, this is where the Democrats can come in to say that we want a seat at the table. The Republican can say that they control the Senate, they control the House, they control the presidency. It wouldn't mean anything if the filibuster rule were to start playing. Now, let's talk about demands, right? What the Republican want is pretty simple. They just want to push for the continuing resolution, which basically means that they just want to kick the can down the road. Okay, there's not going to be any additional stuff that they want to add in. There's nothing that they really want to get rid of either. They just want the current resolution to just continue and just go on because they just want to kick the can down the road. They want to make a decision when it's absolutely needed, which is going to be on the 21st of November. So sadly, it's going to be happening a lot sooner than we think. Now, by the 21st of November, the Republicans cannot just sit back on the fact that they are like, oh, you know, we are being the bigger person. We just want the CR to continue. We just don't want the continuing resolution. We want a clean-cut resolution. We are not playing games. So, hypothetically speaking right now, if both the Democrats and Republican were to somehow manage to find any sort of peace within them and say, okay, you know what, we are going to find a deal today and the government is going to open up today. Now, it wouldn't really matter at all. Why? Because the continuing resolution is going to expire on the 21st of November, which means that until then, what would actually happen for the Republicans is that they would still have to come out with new demands or have to change the continuing resolution. However, the Senate leader is thinking about pushing the extension of the 21st of November for the continuing resolution's expiry down to maybe December so they have more time and just open up the government so they have more time to do a lot of these deals at the back. So of course, you might ask, so why are the Democrats trying to filibuster this continuing resolution? Which, funnily enough, for the Democrats themselves, they have actually voted for the same continuing resolution about 13 times during Biden's era. So what actually changed this time around? So for the Democrats, they are thinking that this is the best time for them to actually get their demands out there, and this is the best time for them to get a seat at the table. Because right now, the Democrats are definitely a lot weaker than in Biden's era. Right now, 3 branches are all taken up by the Republicans, which means that Democrats have a lot less say in a lot of decisions. They want to use this time to use the filibuster rule for them to actually get a seat at the table. Now, I'm going to be letting you guys know some of the demands from the Democrats. First of all, they want healthcare subsidies to be brought back again. So these are the subsidies that were being expanded during COVID. During the pandemic, those subsidies were to help with a lot of the people with their healthcare needs. What happened was Biden wanted to help to reduce a lot of people's premiums or help with people's healthcare bills. So they created the healthcare subsidies that were set to expire this year in 2025. Now, Democrats are basically saying, no, we do not want them to expire this year or ever. The big demand is saying that they want these healthcare subsidies to just stay as it is. That's number one. Of course, they're open to negotiation where they can actually bring this down to, you know what, just give us one more year. How about that? Do it till the end of 2026. That is also a way of negotiating for the healthcare subsidies. Number two, the Democrats will want the reversal of the cuts to SNAP. So for people who are unaware, SNAPs is basically the food stamps in the US. And of course, there were cuts to SNAP, there were cuts to Medicaid, and there were cuts to food assistance in general. Now for Trump, with his big beautiful bill, he had a lot of cuts implemented that is actually valued up to about $1.5 trillion every single decade. So of course, effectively saying that Trump just wants to cut on some costs so that the debt ceiling can be lowered as the time go, and hopefully America does not owe that much money. That's kind of Trump's train of thought, I'm assuming, okay? But from the Democrats' point of view, they think that it is way more important that all these lower income people are settled before we can settle the United States economic situation. So clearly both sides of the aisle have their own priorities first. And the third demand is the inclusion of healthcare reforms tied to premiums costs. Basically getting more coverage for the healthcare sector. Now, I think the main argument points that I'm going to be going through right now, which is going to be for the Republicans. What are they mainly going to be arguing about against all these different demands? Now, the first argument points for the Republican is basically for the healthcare subsidies at the moment. Those were all expanded during the pandemic, and if continuing the extension, it will eventually become a possible responsibility of the government. If this consistently and persistently stays the same, this will become a permanent subsidy from the government, and the government would have to start paying out a lot more every single year on subsidies that wasn't even there to begin with. It all started from a pandemic and people just start relying on it. So from the Republicans' main argument point of view is that they do not want this responsibility to fall on the government, and the responsibility actually come with a pretty large price tag. Now, of course, they also want to add on the point that this is another way where insurance companies and also healthcare companies, pharmaceutical companies is getting more income from the government that way, because they can slowly inch up on the costs where they already know for a fact that the government is going to be paying for a huge subsidies of all these individuals to begin with. Now, the big healthcare argument by the Republicans is that they only want to help Americans with the healthcare sector, not illegal immigrants. And I do understand that there's a little bit of a gray area here. There's a lot of people who thinks that illegal immigrants are still getting the same level of healthcare, but it is not for every single healthcare. It is only for emergency healthcare. So this really kind of go point by point basis. It's not going to be every single illegal immigrants actually get the best healthcare that America is offering to Americans. But on the other hand, the Republicans' concern is not exactly unfounded, because illegal immigrants technically can still get the emergency required emergency procedures when they go into the A&E. When they go into the emergency room, effectively, the doctors and the surgeons would still have to help to operate on them. And all those costs are going to be going to the government. Now, of course, you can take whichever side you want on this whole entire government shutdown right now, but I just want to talk about the result of this whole prolonged shutdown, right? As this stalemate continues at this moment, there's going to be a lot of impacts, right? Your government jobs is being impacted right now. It's starting to cascade over the whole entire government, essential and non-essential works. SNAP is now getting overwhelmed, and even a federal judge actually came out to say that they are forcing Trump to use the emergency fund that was only supposed to be used for natural disasters and such. They are now forcing Trump to say, no, use those emergency funds to help with SNAP, which is the food stamps, right? Which, again, you are not using a very big, a really good solution for a big problem, because the emergency funds right now is at about $5 billion or so. You can possibly only do half a month of SNAP and you will be running dry. So there's going to be a lot more different effects to this, right? Defense contractors, military, integral, government sector, all those essential workers, all of them are not getting paid and they are still having to work because they are essential. Which means that Trump, on the other hand, is trying his best. I'm not sure, to be honest. I didn't hear it from his mouth. But Trump is trying to get them paid as the shutdown continues. And of course, the non-essential workers are currently all just suspended without pay. So you're just starting to see this huge impact on actual American jobs. And now let's talk about economics-wise, right? Due to this shutdown, there's a lot of data that we are unable to see at this moment. So with BLS being one of the main reporting branch in the government sector, we are unable to get inflation reports, we are unable to get jobs report, we are unable to get PPI reports. There's about 20 different data reports that's all being represented by the BLS that we are unable to get. And basically everyone who wants to look at all this data is just guessing at this point. So I would say that the ball is currently in nobody's court. You cannot say that it's up to the Republican, nor is it up to the Democrats. Because the problem is, neither of this party is budging. Right now, we're just on the record day of a record shutdown. So will Republicans really concede that they are running on a deadline because they have to find something to do by the 21st of November? Or will Democrats give way to ensure that helping the affected people during their shutdown would take priority over all the demands that they are coming up with? By the way, that's kind of the rundown of this whole entire government shutdown situation and where things can really go from here. But if you're interested to know more about this and how this can affect different sectors, right? For example, like health insurance company or different healthcare company, pharmaceutical company, do drop a comment down below and I might do some deep dive for you guys, okay? By the way, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next one.